Thank you. Mrs. Rajavi, friends, I have never felt less worthy to share my words or observations. In the life that I have led, I have experienced and witnessed nothing close to what I've heard today. Though I am an attorney, I sadly never made the choice to pursue justice as my colleagues at the bar have done. I can't do anything here but offer the observation of one who, even if from a distance, of a different faith and heritage and nationality, has committed myself to your struggle. As people of faith and education, enlightened people, it is difficult to find any reason in anything we have heard. It would be easy to simply leave this room today with nothing in your hearts but despair. That I would understand. There is my friend Bill Clinton has a quote that I have heard him say 100 times. It is his favorite from American oratory. It is Martin Luther King who observed that the arc of history bends slowly, but it bends towards justice. Sitting here today, I will confess to you, having heard those words all of my life, I thought, does it bend at all? Is this the net result of the human experience? After 250,000 years of human development? This is what we hear? There was a time in human history where the human conscience was protected by these artificial lines we draw on a map. The Spanish came to the New World and they massacred the native people by the millions. But it was not the concern of the French or the British because there was a line on a map. In America and Brazil, African people were enslaved, brutalized by the millions. But it was not the responsibility of the people of the world because there was a line on a map. National sovereignty was the protection of evil. You are not my responsibility. You live there, and I live here. That was not a rule in antiquity. I'm not talking about Greece or Rome or Persia or Egypt. The Turks murdered the Armenians by the hundreds of thousands. And when the Holocaust began, Hitler was observed to have said, when he was cautioned to how history would judge his regime, who remembers the Armenians? Indeed, who did? It took until our generation, until people decided that perhaps the arc of history had started to bend. 6 million dead at the hands of the Nazis seemed to have finally been enough. Each nation now had the responsibility, all people had the right to raise the issue that people had acted outside of human consciousness, outside of the law of all nations, and bring them to justice. It was not easy. It was not complete. It was never fully done. But those who committed those atrocities were, in some measure, brought to justice. Others ran for their lives and hid until the day they died. And upon that experience, my colleagues of the bar, far more learned than I, will tell you, has been built a body of law. When I was a young congressman, the revelations were pouring into Washington as American forces had left Vietnam and Pol Pot had taken control of Cambodia. People were marched from the cities into the suburbs and executed. We don't even know if it was 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. Executed because they could speak a foreign language, or they were educated, or they had left the country. They had a profession. Those trials from 1979, the last one was concluded last year. But they were concluded. The leaders of Cambodia either died in the gallows or they died hiding. And so it was with the Balkans here in Europe, and Rwanda, and last week in the Congo. The arc of history bends slowly, but apparently it may bend towards justice. Each morning when I arise from my home in New Jersey, there's the public radio in America has an extraordinary series, and I listen to it most mornings when I'm getting ready for work. It's called Notebook. And the public television has gone and interviewed people near death, their final years, and interviewed them on the experience. And very often, they have collected thousands of interviews of people who were in death camps in Germany to assure that before they die, they are preserved. And in the last few years, they've done the same in Cambodia and gone to interview all those who had survived the killing fields of Cambodia. To be sure, it was because of the survivors needed to know that the dead, their only chance to live on is in the memory of the living. But it's also evidence for justice. The responsibilities on the shoulders of those of you who are here today is almost unbearable. I admire your courage, I admire your conviction, but the responsibilities you bear are unbelievable. First, that every man and woman who died, every child who might have been born, is never forgotten. Because if they are never forgotten, they never die, and the mullahs never achieve victory. And second, that as we fight for revolution, we also fight for justice. The temptation to become like them and succeed our own justice at the barrel of a gun or the end of a noose is almost overwhelming. If you can resist it, you're a better, I'm not proud of this, you're a better person than I. But the country you want to build, by definition, needs to be different than the past. Our justice will be by law, but it will be swift, and it will be sure. This is your responsibility. But finally, not as the lawyer, not as the one who has heard these stories, you bear one other responsibility, because there really is only one final justice. The hangmen, the clerics, the mullahs, the Revolutionary Guards, they can all have their day in court, and they can all be met with justice. But don't we need more than that? If we are to do more for those who were martyred, more than remembering them, more than keeping them in their hearts, don't we have a responsibility to give meaning to why they died? They would all be comforted that they're in your hearts. It would, I'm sure, bring and brings eternal comfort. But to those who were martyred, with all respect to the law and all my hopes that we prevail in court, isn't there really only one justice for them? Destroy the regime. Thank you all very much.